I'm Lucy from Bookaxe and I'm here today with my review of two literary books that I've read in the last week. Without a Country by Ayse Kulin and Warlight by Ondaatje. It's been a little while since I've read any proper hardcore literary fiction, but two books this month really caught my eye. So it's been good to actually read a couple back to back and be able to compare them and contrast them and have a bit of a sort of literary experience, I think. I kind of missed it. All round, they were pretty good books. One was better than the other. Neither completely blew my socks off, but they were fairly good. So before I take you into the two books I've read this week, just want to say if you're into literary fiction, please do check out bookaxe.com and the apps. They are totally free and you can filter all our recommendations by whichever genre you like and hopefully find a book that is perfect for you. First of all, I'm going to tell you about Without a Country by Ayse Kulin. Now, she is a Turkish author. She's one of Turkey's biggest authors, and this novel, obviously, therefore, is a translation, and it follows 4 generations of the same family who, when we first meet them, I think it's 1933, they are German Jews. Hitler has come to power and they recognise pretty early that they need to get out. So when we first meet them, actually it's a really high drama situation, and it literally is, oh God, I think they're coming for us today, let's flee the country. And so straight off, my pulse was really racing. And then as the novel progresses, we leave this generation of German Jews behind us and we follow their children and then through 4 generations of the same family. And after fleeing Germany, they find themselves in Turkey. So what the novel is a look at how they assimilate or how they, in certain senses, don't assimilate into Turkish society. And for me, the novel was at its absolute best when it was looking at those issues. So at what points the family stopped being German, really, and at what point even they stopped being Jewish too. Sort of their gradual change into being Turkish and to a degree being Muslim as well, and how they were torn about their identity and how the people around them challenged their identity. That to me was the novel's real strength. Unfortunately, I think that the novel's weaknesses for me outweighed that strength a little bit, because you'll see this is not a very big book and it has an awful lot of history in it, and it has an awful lot of years to cover as well, because it starts in 1933 and it takes you right up to now basically, and to fit in 4 generations of the same family and the entire modern history of Turkey and also a little bit sort of wider European history as well into that 300 odd pages was just a little bit too squished in for me. There was too much to try and fit into those pages, and the consequence of that, unfortunately, was that nothing had the level of depth that I really wanted it to have. So in particular, the characters. When you're going through all these generations, it's hard to get to know these people to a degree that makes you really care about them. So the high drama situation that we had at the beginning, unfortunately, was sort of the climax really for me, and it did sort of peter out after that, just because I couldn't get the depth of the characters that I really wanted, or even actually a little bit of the depth of history, because although there is quite a lot in there, if you're not an expert on the subject, I was very aware that I was missing things, I guess, because you were given the headlines really, and there's this assumption that you know a little bit more about it, which obviously this was written in Turkish, initially for a Turkish audience, so they probably do know the history of their country. So, you know, if I was reading a book on Britain that had the same level of detail, it would probably make sense. So I guess that's not necessarily a fair criticism. The other strength that I will mention though, because that's just reminded me, is actually the translation itself, because I feel that a lot of translated fiction loses something. The prose is quite clunky, perhaps, you know, the tone of phrase which it's written in originally doesn't translate into English very well. But this book is fabulously translated. It's really fluid in the way that it's written. And I didn't feel that clunky feeling that you get with translations at all. So I think that is definitely a strength. Look what I've just done accidentally. I did a bad news sandwich. I had a strength, then a criticism, then a strength. So overall, it was an okay book. I liked the way it was written. I loved the concept of it. Unfortunately, it just didn't deliver for me when push came to shove. Next up, I read Warlight by Ondaatje, and by pure coincidence, you may have spotted in the press yesterday, The English Patient, which is another novel of his, won the Man Booker Prize 50 years celebration public vote prize. There you go, that's a mouthful. I think there's a snappier title. Basically, the public chose it as the best Booker-winning book of all time. So I probably wouldn't agree with them on that one actually. I'd have had Life of Pi or maybe The White Tiger, but I did like The English Patient. And the critics were saying that this was his best one since The English Patient, which kind of made me want to pick it up. I haven't read the others, so I can't compare. The other reason that I wanted to pick it up was because it's got such a great premise. Listen to this, listen to this. So, it is post-war England, and two children living with their parents and their lodger are suddenly told by their parents that actually they're going to Asia for a year because daddy's got a job over in Singapore. We're going to Asia, you're going to stay here with the lodger and we'll be back soon. Is that all right, kids? And they seem to go, all right, yeah, sure, whatever. But then the lodger turns out to be a little bit underhanded, seedy. They're not quite sure whether he's a criminal or not. Again, they don't seem to be too fussed by this fact, really. But anyway, that premise for a novel, I was like, oh, I am on board for that. And then, right at the beginning, it gets even better because the kids, once their parents have gone, they go downstairs and they discover their mother's trunk that she was packing to go on this trip to Asia, and she's already kissed them goodbye and said see you soon. So instantly they know that something is very seriously amiss and someone somewhere is telling a big fat whopper of a lie. The book is told from the perspective of the boy, the son, when he is then grown up. So I think he's 28 at the time of this novel, and it is predominantly written like a memoir. So in the first person, looking back on his childhood, first of all, and then the second half sort of more as an adult, the consequences of his childhood and what he's trying to do. So I found that actually the first person perspective was quite claustrophobic. I did yearn for a little bit more variety, but that I often feel with first person perspective novels. That's sort of a personal taste thing. And the more the novel went, the less actually that bothered me. And later on it is interspersed with sort of snapshots of other people's perspectives that he couldn't possibly have known. So that does give you that little bit more variety as you're going. The narrator's voice is pretty impersonal actually. He's talking about sort of his life of getting sucked into mild criminal activity as a child as a result of hanging out with this lodger. And although he's talking about these really big events, and ones that you would expect would have sort of like a really profound emotional impact on a child, actually we don't sense that he's feeling it, like really, really feeling it. We don't get those emotions. And to start with, I was like, well, where are they? Why are they not there? They should be there. And that bothered me until there is a point where actually he sort of says that he has had to mentally detach himself, and then suddenly the voice became super, super appropriate, and I kind of got it. So I would have maybe liked to have had that nod earlier on, that sort of the detachedness was deliberate, but once I got it again, I did like it a lot. There were things about this novel that I thought were really brilliant, and there were things that actually frustrated me quite a lot. So again, I love the premise, really great premise. And the style of Ondaatje's writing is brilliant. It is beautiful. There's a quote actually on the cover that says something about the language being really vigorous and really serene at the same time. And usually I turn my nose up at jacket quotes, but that is spot on. He has this way of writing which is so luxurious, and he uses these like really velvety turns of phrase which are just fabulous, and they're slow to read in a way, but at the same time they have this urgency that does set your pulse racing, that does push you through and excite you, and I really love that. There's like a description of a bullet bucking out of a shotgun that I just think, oh God, that's so good, so good. So for me, that was the real strength. The main frustration that I had about this novel, though, was all about secrets, really, because, I mean, goodness, fiction needs secrets, doesn't it? We all love a book that's got great secrets in it. You need them almost to drive it, don't you? But when I was thinking about it, there's kind of two different types of secrets, aren't there? Because, you know, the good secrets are when some people don't know there's a secret, or when they do know there's a secret and they will do anything they possibly can to find out what that secret is. Whereas in this book, when they discover their mother's trunk of stuff that she clearly didn't take to Asia, there is obviously a secret, and yet the children aren't really driven to find out what that secret is. They don't ask the lodger where their mother is, which I would have thought would be your first question, really. They don't ask the lodger even whether he really is a criminal. Everything is just sort of unsaid. And also, even when later on in the book, the mother comes back into the picture and they're living together, and he's an adult now, so you can't really use the, oh, you know, he was a child and he was scared to ask situation. He still doesn't ask her what happened. He doesn't ask her where she was. He doesn't ask her all these unanswered questions, these enormous unanswered questions. And I just think if you're going to have secrets, somebody needs to have some agency to find out the answers to him. So the role of secrets in this novel did frustrate me. Similarly, actually, the omission about certain characters, omissions irritated me as well, because it starts off with two children and two parents, and the mother comes back into the picture, and we never find out what happened to the father. He is conveniently absent because Ondaatje would have had to come up with something good for him, I guess. And I don't know, we just never find out really what happened to him, and that irritated me. And the sister as well, you know, she leads a completely separate life from Nathaniel, the main character, and actually it's unsatisfactory because it's not believable, but it sort of feels like Ondaatje's been a little tiny bit lazy and copped out by just going, I'm going to, you know, say we just don't know what happened to the other half of the family and we're going to focus on these two. Again, I guess it goes back to secrets, doesn't it? You think, would they have just not tried to find out? Would no one have asked where the father is? I don't know. Anyway, so in part, really, really brilliant. Loved the writing. Oh, although ever so occasionally it did sort of skirt the borders of pretentiousness just a little bit. I know you kind of expect it, don't you, with Ondaatje? But I guess certain characters didn't have names. They had nicknames like the Moth or the Darter. And that was ever so slightly pretentious, I felt. But generally, language, writing style, really, really great. So yeah, bit of a mixed bag. And I guess actually I should say overall the effect of this book is really positive. I did enjoy it, but I don't think I'm going to remember it for the rest of my life. I don't know that it would win the Booker Prize public vote in 50 years' time for the next round of voting. But overall, if you like The English Patient, if you like his style of writing, I don't think you'll be disappointed by this. I do think it is a really enjoyable read. So there you have it, 2 literary books that I've read in the last week. I know for a fact that some of you are reading Warlight at the moment, so please do talk to me in the comments below and let me know what you thought, whether the secrets issue bothered you too, or just generally anything else that I haven't mentioned. I'd love to know. Similarly, if you've read Without a Country or are thinking about it, please do talk to me. I'd be so interested to hear your thoughts. In the meantime, do check out bookacts.com or the apps. They're completely free, and I'll see you next time. Bye.